There are moments when a person encounters someone and feels an immediate pull inside, a quiet tension, a subtle irritation, a reaction that seems far too deep for such a small interaction, a voice tone, a posture, a simple behavior. And yet, it stirs something old, something hidden. Most people assume the discomfort is caused by the other person, that it is their flaw, their attitude, their presence. But beneath the surface, a softer truth waits. The discomfort is a mirror, a reflection of a part of the self once buried, judged, or abandoned. The mind resists not because the trait is wrong, but because it is familiar, too familiar. What a person rejects in others is often the echo of what they once rejected in themselves, rising again to be seen, understood, and remembered. It begins quietly, a sudden irritation at someone's confidence, a judgment towards someone's vulnerability, a dislike that feels instinctive, immediate, and strangely powerful. Most people brush it aside, telling themselves it is simply personality clash or intuition. But deep inside, the psyche knows what is happening. The reaction isn't random, it's responsive. It points to something hidden beneath layers of behavior, culture, and learned composure. This is the first glimpse of the shadow. The shadow is not darkness. It is simply the part of the self that was pushed away in order to survive the demands of childhood, family, and society. When a person sees in someone else the trait they once silenced, assertiveness, sensitivity, chaos, creativity, intensity, the reaction feels sharp, not because the trait is harmful, but because it is familiar. The mind projects old emotions onto present situations. A person who dislikes someone's honesty may once have been punished for speaking truth. A person who recoils at emotional expression may have been taught to stay quiet. And so, the shadow stirs. Not to accuse, not to shame, but to remind. The discomfort is a signal that the mind is seeing itself through an external lens, and recognition is the first doorway into understanding. The origins of the shadow rarely come from conscious choice. They come from childhood moments that shaped identity long before a person understood what identity meant. A child watches which traits are praised and which are punished. They notice when their voice is welcomed and when it is silenced. They learn quickly that acceptance is conditional, and so they begin to sculpt themselves into something safe, something allowed. In that sculpting, certain traits are cut away, not because they are wrong, but because they were inconvenient for the world around them. A sensitive child learns to toughen up. A bold child learns to shrink. A creative child learns to follow rules. A loud child learns to stay quiet. These abandoned traits do not disappear. They simply move inward, stored in the unconscious, waiting for the moments when life mirrors them back through other people. This is why certain individuals trigger unexpected emotional responses. They represent forgotten fragments of the self, fragments shaped by moments the child never fully understood. And so, the shadow becomes a silent archive of everything once lost. It carries unmet needs, unexpressed emotions, unexplored facets, not as punishment, but as preservation. When the shadow reflects through others, it does so with the intention of awakening what was once forced into sleep. Projection is the psyche's way of revealing what the conscious mind refuses to face. It is not a flaw, it is a mechanism of survival. When the mind encounters a trait it has buried, it redirects the emotion outward onto someone else. This keeps the inner world stable, protected, undisturbed. Jung believed projection is both a shield and a teacher. It shields the conscious mind from overwhelming truths, but it also teaches by allowing the unconscious to speak through external encounters. When a person dislikes someone's confidence, it may be their own confidence calling out. When they resent someone's freedom, it may reflect the parts of themselves that felt trapped. When they judge someone's emotional openness, it may be their own suppressed emotions seeking acknowledgement. Projection is subtle, often invisible. It feels like certainty, I don't like them, but it is actually a message, I don't understand this part of myself. The mind sends these signals not to hurt, but to reveal. Each emotional reaction becomes a clue, a psychological breadcrumb leading back to an inner truth the person has forgotten. The shadow becomes visible not through introspection alone, but through relationships, discomforts, and the reflections found in others. In this way, Projection is less about others and more about the unseen architecture of the self. Confronting the shadow is rarely easy. The mind instinctively resists it. There is fear in seeing oneself clearly. Fear that old wounds might reopen or old identities might crumble. Resistance appears in the form of denial, defensiveness, or self-righteous certainty. The person tells themselves the problem is external because it feels safer that way. But beneath the resistance lies something softer, longing. The shadow holds not only pain but potential, the parts of the self that were never allowed to grow. When the realization finally comes, it comes gently. Not as a dramatic awakening, but as a quiet recognition that emotions have meaning, that discomfort carries information, and that reactions are reflections. This is the turning point, the moment when judgment softens into curiosity, when irritation becomes insight, when the person understands that what they rejected in others was never the enemy, it was the forgotten companion they left behind. Realization does not solve everything, but it opens a door, and behind that door, the self is waiting to be understood rather than feared. Integration is not a final destination, it is a gentle unfolding. It begins when a person allows the shadow to exist without shame. They start noticing their reactions without blaming others. They begin understanding that every trait, even the uncomfortable ones, belongs to the full spectrum of being human. With awareness, judgment softens. People who once felt threatening become sources of understanding. Traits that once seemed intolerable become signs of inner wounds finally seeking light. Integration does not require becoming someone new. It requires welcoming the parts that were once left behind. This deepens empathy, not only toward others but toward the self. The person begins to see that everyone carries a shadow, that everyone hides parts of themselves to survive, and that everyone reflects pieces of one another. The world becomes less divided and more connected. And in that connection, a quiet wholeness emerges, an understanding that what is rejected in others is often the doorway back to oneself, gently guiding the mind toward a more complete, compassionate, and awakened sense of being.